used to get one of the children. Just like she's okay. One of the children. Now just leave it. The arena upstairs, they doing a slideshow. So you might as well leave it. I think. No, I just wanted to see.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm checking with you too.
Okay, this one is Rashid. If you want to sit here, you can't sit next to me, because I'm sitting. And then I thought that's not on. Yeah, you have start. Okay, everyone.
I'm not going there. To there.
I'm not sure if the microphone's not working. Is the imam here?
Okay, once you're done, turn it on. It seems kind of silly. All right.
Sister Deborah. Sister Deborah.
Okay, wait.
What happened?
No, you can move this?
Here, this right here. You should right here. You're doing something like that. Yeah. This is the,
So, good morning, everyone. We want to take time to get everything started and really want to say thank you so much for everyone coming out. We know everyone wants to show their love, but with COVID now, we have restrictions. And so if there are no seats, we ask you to go upstairs because there's seating upstairs in respect to the family. Thank you so much. Okay, to start, we want to have welcoming remarks. That's coming from Imam Abdul Malik. Imam, thank you so much. That's the only thing. I don't think that the microphone is working. Can everyone hear in the back?
Yep.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm just going to say a few words in recite al-Fatiha, inshallah. First and foremost, I want to give my condolence to the family that is here, to the friends that are here. And I just want to say how I feel so blessed just to be a part of this service. It's always an honor to reflect upon the life of those that have come before us, who laid the foundation upon which we stand upon. And there's one short verse in the Quran I just want to recite. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim says, it's a short verse. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Tabarik alladhi biyadihi al-mulk wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, alladhi khalaqa al-mawta wal-hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. To the best of my ability, the translation is as follows. Tabarik means glorified, blessed is the one, the creator of life and death, who has given us life after we have been amongst those that were non-existent, who has given us the ability to be tried and tested to see who is best in deeds. I say to you this morning that in the presence of Brother Dawud, that let his life and his death be an inspiration to those of us that are still here. Because as I look at Brother Dawud, he's very young. Very young. But I could tell just by being here this morning, he had a wonderful and an amazing spirit. I could tell by the music that was being played for him. When you hear that kind of music, there are certain types of people who listen to that kind of music. Those that have a love for life and the spirit of joy. And I just say to you this, for me, death does not bring me sadness. For me, death, I use it as an inspiration to live my best life. And that's what I want to say to you. Use this moment to pray for his soul, that he be received by the Maker with grace, kindness, forgiveness, and the abundance of eternity. But use this moment, especially in COVID-19, use this moment to reflect upon the quality of life that you can live and how impactful you can be in the time in which we are today. Because life is the greatest gift. If you woke up this morning, you're one of the richest people on the planet Earth. Remember these words. When you open your eyes in the morning, you're one of the richest people in the world, because there's nothing outside of the breath of life that is sacred, that can give you any sense of existence without that spirit of life that we have been given. So let this moment be one. There's sadness, of course. Whenever you lose someone you love, there's a moment of sadness. But in that moment of sadness, find your purpose in your pain and leave today rethinking. How can you live your best life? And if this is your father, your husband, your grandfather, your best friend, however you see him, in his honor and in his name and in his remembrance, live your best life. Because each and every one of us that are sitting here, we must pass this path. Death is inevitable. And I used to be afraid of the death. And I'm going to end on this. When I was a little boy, I used to run past the funeral homes. Because my mother told me one time she was having a funeral and somebody set up. So I used to go past the funeral home and I used to run. And I used to have to go to that funeral home as a little boy, Mr. Father one time. And then as I became a Muslim, I started washing dead bodies. And then I realized something. The basis of my fear for death was my ignorance. Should never be afraid to die. What we should fear is how we're living. If I never see you again, don't be afraid of what God has already ordained. We are mortal creatures destined for death. What you should be afraid of is, how do you show your appreciation for life? And I say to the children, now that your father has made his transition, you must love, honor, and respect, and devote your lives now more than ever to the service of your mother. That you must do. You must devote your life as a child to the service of your mother, because our mothers gave birth unto us at the expense, potentially, of losing their own lives. You know, when you give birth, you can lose your life. And if we honor and respect our mothers, our lives will be so much more beautiful. And this brother here is a beautiful soul. I see the joy and the youthfulness upon him. And I pray that Allah will always bless him and bless his family with all the blessings of this life and give him the comforts that only God can give. Because I do believe that this is not the end. That's my belief. I believe that we are creatures in the flesh, but we have a spirit that is eternal. And that spirit is the Spirit of God. So I'm going to recite the Fatiha in Arabic and with the translation English. May I do that?
Yes, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. It reads, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Master of the Day of Judgment. It is Thee, Allah alone, that we worship and the aid that we seek. Guide us upon the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed upon them your grace, your mercy, and your love. And let us not walk upon the path of those who are gaining your wrath as a result of living in rebellion against your truth. Ameen. May Allah bless all of you, and to the family, I thank you, and may Allah's blessings be with you equally.
Thank you so much, Imam. Now we have slideshow and music by Big Shirley Productions. Should we turn that down some music? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So that was done already. If you missed it, it was on the wall, and there may be another opportunity, I'm not sure. But I know my sister, and she'll find a way to get it to everybody. So there'll be it. Now we have a scripture reading from Reverend Maria Williams. I know she's outside, and she'll come up and read the scripture.
Grace and peace to everyone. Please use the mic so they can hear you outside.
It doesn't.
Let me turn it up a little. Grace and peace to everyone. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. We're reading from Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, 1 to 4. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which was planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to suffer. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time thank you. As I say to the family, you will always have memories of days to make you smile. God be with
Okay, and, Sister Maria left the glove. If someone let her know.
Marie.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we have a time for reflections. So this is an opportunity for anyone to come up and to say a few words. That includes those who are upstairs.
Yes.
Should they come down to say?
Yes.
Okay, they can come down as well. But we need people to come one at a time. And we need to ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. I am now the moderator and the keeper of time. So I'll raise your hand. I'll raise my hand when your 2 minutes are, when it's close to it. Okay? Dawn, you started?
Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
My name is Dawn. I'm living in the daughter of Trace. This is my son, my brother. I just want to say, my uncle wasn't from Alabama. He was a father figure as well as a father figure collector. Everything that he did was showed his holiness, he showed me, and I showed him love for my son. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously this is his brother. But as he needs to mature, his words and his speeches, he's always going to do it. But most of all, he's his words. He showed me how to be a woman, how to be husband, how to grow. From a girl to a young lady, from a young lady to a young mother. He has shown me how to be a mother, to understand and love with her. So I just want you to understand whatever he taught you is not good and I'm sorry. But he's always going to be with us. His teaching, his laughter, is nothing that anyone would do if he had. He enjoyed everything. And I didn't know that he was in pharmacy for Mother's Sister's time. And the elders, how I'm close to the elders, how I am, and how warm my heart is to be so So I just want y'all to encourage y'all. We need to be there for our elders. We need to be there for our family. So I love y'all. And I pray that we stick together, stay strong as one. And I want y'all to lift up this family, including myself, and please show them to us. And I love you.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Dawn.
I'll go, and then I'll come. Let everything go. Yes, ma'am.
giving honor to God, and that's my brother. And everybody's figuring, oh, I know Joyce, I know this one, I don't know you. Well, you know me now. Anyway,
I want to tell you a little story about Dave. They were moving from Crowd Street to Prospect, and the family know the story already, but I think you guys would enjoy the story, so I'm gonna say it again. Anyway, I had my two daughters in the car, Nick and T, and we driving over to Prospect. So Dave is saying, yeah, the only one I want in that house is Jesus with Art Ori. I said, yes, Jesus is the only one. I'm saying, but I'm thinking he's Muslim. But he keeps saying, yeah, because I don't want everybody to just come flopping there. Jesus is the only one. And I'm like, amen, yes, Jesus. Jesus is the only one I want in that house with Art Ori. Because she's going to be all right. If Jesus is there with her, I'm not going to worry. I said, that's right. We're not going to worry because Jesus is there with her. Never knowing that was Phyllis' father's name. And I'm like cursing. I don't drink and I don't smoke, but I do curse. I can curse like a sailor. I got a PhD, a professional cursor. And I'm saying, it wasn't until we went over to Michelle's house, and they said, oh, Jesus is here. And I said, thank you, Lord. Jesus is here. So then they showed me who Jesus was, you know? But anyway, they left us here, and he went up to heaven, and he met St. Pete up in heaven. And St. Pete said, hey, where you going? Dave was walking through the gates of pearly gates of heaven. So St. Pete said, no, you have to answer 3 questions before you can get into the pearly gates of heaven. He said, the first question is, name me 2 days during the week that begin with the letter T. So Dave said, oh, come on, I'm a smart man. Give me something hard. Today and tomorrow. So St. Pete said, oh my God, you're right, today and tomorrow. He said, I'm going to ask you a second question. How many seconds are there in a year? He said, come on, St. Pete. You asking a very intelligent man these questions. He said, it's 12. He said, well, how did you come up with the answer 12? He said, January 2nd, February 2nd. St. Pete said, all right, this next question I asked you is the last question, and it has to be the right question. He said, what was Jesus Christ's real name? Dave said, I can't believe this. He said, how will? He said, how did you get that? He said, easy. Our Father, who art in heaven, how will be thy name?
My name is Ronald Garrow. I'm Phyllis's oldest grandson, or grandson, her oldest nephew. I stand here, I wear this kango. You might wonder why I'm standing here with a hat. I wear this kango representing Uncle Dave. He liked to wear kango hats. At a young age, I moved in the same building with my aunt and her family, with my father. She helped my father get the apartment. I was very young. My father wound up passing away, less than, 15 months of us living together. At that time, Uncle Dave, stepped up, and he was a second father to me. Phyllis was like a mother to me. Steve and them all were my brothers. I protected them like they protected me. Uncle Dave and Aunt Phyllis, introduced me to the Nation of Islam. All right? At a young age, I was a 5%. And one thing Aunt Phyllis told me, she said, even though I'm a 5%, she respected my decision because it taught me to read and to learn the history of our people and to learn the history of yourself. Because there's no better history than knowing yourself. And I learned through the years as I grew up that Uncle Dave represented a man. And it takes a lot for you to understand yourself and to grow as a man and find yourself within yourself. And Uncle Dave represented that to the fullest. He lived by the laws of Islam. My Bible lived by the laws of Islam. I learned the laws of Islam. I'm so proud of my cousin Lamar, because Lamar is a dental, you know, you know, he just reminds me so much of Uncle Dave at a young age. Very, very solid, very solid. And I just want to say I miss Uncle Dave. I love him, and there's a lot of things that I learned from him that he don't know because I didn't get a chance to tell him that I learned from him, that he had taught me. Bio gave me the phone a few days ago, and she said, "Say something to your uncle." And I was put on the spot. I wasn't put on the spot, but I wanted to speak to my uncle. When I wanted to speak to him alone, I wanted to let him know some things, that he taught me. And I went in the next room and I spoke to him. I cried, and I let him know. I let you know now, Mike, that it wasn't nothing. That I just wanted to speak to him alone, and I love him. And one thing he did make me do, and I said this last night. I told my heart. I said he made me hang up on my ghetto card because he dipped me. When they took me out and he dipped me, I said, "Man, how can you dip me?" I was like, 70-year-old dipped me, left me in the street. I thought I was street smart, So I put my card up. I'm no longer street smart. Right, so I just want to leave you guys with that. I love y'all, family.
Too brother. So.
Good morning, family. I just want to bring love and joy from your extended family and fellow members. I don't have a particular story about Dave because Dave was a constant. And in being a constant, there lies the strength that that man stood for. He was a constant husband, a constant father and grandfather, and cousin. And all the times that you all came down to Philadelphia, he had nothing but a smile and generosity. He was a very generous man. And he was generous with his heart and his love and his kindness. And I want to continue to remember him in that fashion. And just on behalf of your extended family, I'm Philadelphia. We're here tonight.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, friend.
Hello, family. My name is Marlene Richardson, and I'm David's baby sister. I haven't spent much time with my brother, but times that I spent with him were the best times of my life. When I was a little girl, he brought me this baton for Christmas, and I never forgot that day. And he brought Aunt Vi and the kids over. And I just had a beautiful time. I just love my brother. Y'all just pray. God bless. I love you, David. Thank you.
Grace and peace, family. My name is Tavon. I'm the oldest grand, coming from the siblings. Great grand. Excuse my speech. Uncle Dave, for me, and for our family, some of us didn't have fathers, grandfathers. For Uncle Dave, wherever there was a seat or a place that needed to be filled, Uncle Dave felt that. He filled that spot. For my mother, he was her father. For me and my sister, he was like our grandfather, even though he was our uncle. I had the privilege of learning the fundamentals of basketball with him, but I'm gonna share one story. I'll be brief. He, to me, was like a bank of wisdom. When he spoke, you listen. It could be something good, it can be a joke, it can be, you know, him just telling me my grandmother doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna share one story. I did something in my youth that wasn't my proudest moment. And my mom called somebody. And at the time, I was like, you call whatever you want to call, you know what I mean? I know who I am. And my godfather probably remember this story. A couple of hours later, he picked me up in the van. It was him, Uncle Lamar, Rashid. I'm not really sure if he was in the car. I just remember them two because they did the most talking. I'm sorry. So they was like, yeah, Uncle Dave is downstairs. I'm like, actually they said your godfather's downstairs. I'm like, okay, you can wait. You came here, you know what I mean? But then when she said, well, Uncle Dave is here, I was like, okay, I'm coming down the stairs. So I came downstairs. I'm not gonna say what I did, but in that lesson, Uncle Dave broke down how you're supposed to protect the woman, how you're supposed to stand by them, how you're supposed to make them feel secure. And he also was in that lesson, I don't know if you remember, was teaching me what it means to be a Richardson male and how to actually walk as a man with your head held high to, you know, have a standard about yourself, and how to carry yourself. So even when I get encouragements today from the family telling me the man that I am, that's only because of what he led, how he led his life. We are all, as Richardsons, Browns, we are basically what all the teaching that he has taught us. It's our jobs to carry that on. So that's on our shoulders. I said this to Rashid at the house. What we've got from him, what we've got from your house on Bayou in the 90s. I know I was born 91, but Talib and them, they've been there before me. But what your house stood for in those days with just Uncle Dave and you and getting the men together, that was something that some grands and some people, some cousins in our family will never be able to witness. They will not be able to understand the relationship. We have relationships as Richardsons, Browns, half brothers, half sisters, because of how you guys came together. So I just want to let you guys know, this man was a remarkable man. I'm sorry. He taught us, and in the midst of his lessons, if he didn't give you $10, he gave you a peppermint. You know? So I just want to encourage the family to let you guys know he's still within us.
That's
Everything
right.
he
That's
taught
right.
us is
That's
with
right.
us.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? So us as men, Richardsons, Browns, it's our job to look after our wives, to look after our sisters and cousins. It's our job to carry on what he taught us. And I'm not going to be, that's it, family. I love you all.
Thank you, sir.
Good job,
I'm his niece, his great niece. My name's Naomi. This is hard for me, you know, but I know that he's a better place. And I'm at peace because he's not suffering. I tell myself I went into this, I don't even know how I'm getting this. But I'm happy that we had time with him. I'm happy that he lived to see the days that he did share with us. I'm even grateful that God created a man like him.
Yes.
And like my brother said, growing up, my father wasn't there. And so when we got a little bit older, my father did come around. But it was nothing compared to his teachings. It's like he didn't judge you. He
He loved you. He embraced you. And me and my brother, everybody that knew us, we were baby kids. You couldn't tell us nothing. And he didn't care about that. He wasn't hard on us. It was like he loved us even in our failures, even in our mishaps, even in our disobedient ways, even in our rebellious ways. He loved us. And one thing that we can truly say is that it's his wisdom that he taught to us. Like I said, it's hard when you lose an angel, but it's also exciting to know that you know what, I have so much memories that I can hold on to. And just speaking for the cousins, my cousins that couldn't be here today, we all love Uncle Dave. Yeah. They may not know right now in the present, but all of his sisters, children, we all adored Uncle Dave. We loved him, so he was just the life of the party. It was never a dull moment. Even if he was late, he showed up and the party began. You know, every family function we had, he could have been late, and it was like, okay, now the party started. Now it's time to start the party. And so I don't want to be here long, but I just want to say that I'm so grateful that he married Aunt Bayo. Yeah. I'm so grateful because it's like you brought a better man out of him. Yeah. Even the stories you told me of, you know, your childhood love and growing, and you know, like he's just like my brother said, he just was a phenomenal man. And again, I'm at peace knowing that he's okay, he's not suffering, and I'm gonna always be here for my cousins, his grandchildren. Yeah. It's like money can never buy, money cannot replace what someone gives you from their heart. Right. And so what he gave to us, it's like we can give back to people. Yeah. And even before we changed our lives around, even before we, you know, because we have history, we have a past. But it's because of our family members that were there, and they did not push us down. They didn't judge us. They didn't close doors on our face. He was not that type of person. Right. He was that type of person that said, come in. I'm going to help you get better. Yes. Come, it's okay. It's okay. You did that. All right, now let's try to make it better. Let's try to be wise about it. Right. So I just want to say that to everybody here, it's a grieving moment, yes, but it's also a happy moment because we know that there's so much in us that he has given, you know, that he's placed in us, and he's gonna be missed. Like even being here, I can still see the brightest light in this room, and it's like him laying there. There's the bright light, you know. So I'm at peace. It's hard, but I'm at peace. So thank you. I can go on, but that's it. Thank you. Oh, I hate that.
Good afternoon. It's okay. I'm Rashid. I've been in this family for 20 years. And not much. I just like to say something that I said to Mom this morning. It just woke up a little heavy. And I say, Mom, short class. I woke up thinking about you and Pop. How more than half of my life I spent with your family. I learned a great deal from you. And I truly feel I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for the village I have. But that is more than able to probably the first male figure I've seen. I grew up raised by my grandmother, so for me, it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. I remember the road trips together, and I must have been about 15. And they would stop at every state, maybe twice in that state. And I would just be like, why? Why do we always stop? And as I got older, I realized it wasn't so much the destination, but the journey. And those stops are the same stops I make now when I take those road trips. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm rubbing on my phone. He spoke and treated me as if I was his own. He supported our success, pushed for greatness, and always reminded us of our power. Although we may have had our disagreements, misunderstandings, or just polar opposite ideas. Sorry. It goes without saying that he encourages us to have our voices. Our words hold power, and I'll never forget when he said to me, you can never take back something hurtful that you said, even if that person has forgiven you. And I've tried over the years to really think about what that meant to me, and really make amends with those I've hurt, and things that I've said or done, and I'm working on growth. Sorry. I just want to say, Mom, I hope that Rashid and I have that same love. I hope that Rashid and I can travel the world together. And I hope that we can raise our kids to be great individuals like you have taught us. I love Pop. And no one like you. In our last visit, he said to me, I love your driving, and I take that with great pride.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. To God be the glory. For those of you who don't know, I'm Dave's wife's brother. Come on, break it down. My name is Michael. And also known as Spike, and affectionately known as Uncle Spike. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I got the name Spike in 1970. And this was before we became a technological dependent society. I had a Wrangler dungaree jacket. I took some silver studs, no, I said it right, and spelled the name Spike in broad lettering. And the name went viral. And in 1970, I was 10 years old, I turned 11 that year. And that was the same year that Dave and Bio hooked up. Although they knew each other before that in school, they hooked up in 1970, if my dates are correct. And when Dave came on the scene, he had a big afro, sideburns, he had a long black car with off-white interior, long black leather coat with white trimming. And his afro was so perfect, it looked like he went to sleep like this at night. It wasn't anything out of place. Couldn't take your eyes off of him. And he was a hipster. He came from Fort Greene Projects. We grew up on Willoughby Street. They considered it the outskirts, across the street from the telephone company, between Duffield and Bridge Street. The guys in the projects made fun of me. They said, yo, Mike don't live in the projects. He live in the slums. You ring the doorbell and the toilet flush. Hated it. Tried to convince my mother to move in the projects. She assured me that that wasn't going to happen. We were staying on Willoughby Street. So when Dave came in all of his splendor, he came with a crew. It was Ron Gardner, Ronnie Britt, Bow-Legged Brother, Joe Graham, Joe Mendez, Greg Brown, and Robert Knowles. Just to name a few. And those were the guys that Dave put together to pull off the Lufthansa heist. No, I'm just kidding. That comes from watching too many movies. But that was his crew. And in the projects in 1970, I'm going to ever so briefly describe the playground. There were ponies. There was monkey bars that was in the form of a stagecoach. There were barrels. There was something that looked like Swiss cheese from out of bedrock. There was a stage. there were logs, and there was an airplane. 1970. So when Dave brought me to the house, he was living with his mother. All I wanted was a little room like that. Dave's room was so small, he had to go in the hallway to change his mind. And all my friends had that little room. We lived in a tenement building. Had the whole downstairs. I'm talking about carpet, L-shaped couch, pole lamp, wood panel, bevel mirror. There were beads in the doorway. There was zebra pattern linoleum in the bedroom, black lights, posters, fishnets hanging from the ceiling, balloons, incense burning. I would have gave all that up for the little room in the projects that Dave had. At that time, the windows opened up like this. You could peer your head out. It's not like this, opened up 4 inches. You were able to peer your head out. Ron Britt told me Dave was always the last guy to get to be ready to go to school. So they would call Dave from the window. They lived on the 5th floor. Dave! And Dave would stick his head out and let him know he was on his way down. He had on his hat, his coat, but underneath he had on his pajamas and stocking feet. He had rascal. 1971, Lamar was born. Dave told me that because he came on the set, he walked into a ready-made family. Steve was 3 years old. He said when Lamar was born, he had to suppress his affection because he didn't want Steve to feel slighted. I'm talking about integrity in a man. I'm talking about, like, being restricted to hug and love your firstborn immensely. You have to make a commitment to say, yo, it's not about me. I got to think about somebody other than me. Right. Talking about your firstborn that's lovable and huggable. 13 years later, Rashid was born. Dave said he was able to give that affection to Rashid because Steve or Rashid couldn't feel slighted. He said, Mike, this is the baby. Good for you, Dave. He got to give up that affection. Good for him. I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one. I'm a person that can read and reiterate verbatim. But if I see it, that's how I learn best. Dave would often tell stories about his youth in Fort Greene projects. And if he captured an expression on my face that reflect disbelief, he would pull out his whole card and say, ask Gardner and them. I love Dave. He taught me a lot, and he showed me a lot. I just want to say that I'm not trying to eulogize him, but I will say that he was the kind of guy that in your time of need would give you the shirt off his back and didn't call a press conference to talk about it.
Come on, sir. Come on, sir.
That's the kind of guy he was. So each and every one of us will have an opportunity to immortalize him. And two of the most common ways we can seek out to achieve that is by the way of fond memories and storytelling. God bless all.
That's why I left before you.
Assalamualaikum family. Peace be upon you. I'm Fifi, David's daughter-in-law.
Dave's friend. I never thought I would be back in this position with losing a loved one within 6 months from losing my mother. But as I'm learning, God is all knowing and He plans our destination. I'm missing Dave so much. I knew Dave since I was 5 years old, now 50. And every time I come in contact with Dave, he's always loved to hold a conversation with me. He would love to ask how I was doing and find out if there was anything he can do for me and tell me about some story either he read, watched on TV, or someone told him. I'm going to miss our check-ins with each other, him telling me, you know I'm not a phone person, so I used to keep it brief but sweet. Dave loved Phyllis so much, and Phyllis loved Dave. Phyllis, I admire your dedication to Dave during these trying times. That is a true definition of sickness and import. I watch you feed him, sing to him, talk to him, just loving him. Now, Phyllis, this is your time to take that time to take care of yourself and do some reflecting. We have to give her that family. She needs it more than ever, and that goes for me too. She loves us all, but she needs to do some self-caring right now. To Steve, Lamar, Rashid, I love how you three came together to protect, nurture your mother during these times. It is so good to witness the loving hugs, the calls, stopping by to make sure she ate, was getting rest, and it is so beautiful to see. Shows how much Granddad has instilled in you three. I love you. And lastly, be careful. One day Lamar was visiting his dad and Dave wrote, be careful. No, Dave wanted to write. So he found a napkin, and on that napkin he wrote, be careful. He told Lamar to tell everybody, be careful. Lamar sent the message. He wrote on a piece of paper to me, and I would like to share it with you. Be careful. I love you all. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Bear with me, this is bad for all of us. It's really hard for me. I'm cinnamon. Uncle Dave's niece. A lot of you know me as Buddha. When he was little, but my dad passed. I had Uncle Spike, my Uncle Bobby, my Uncle Skeeter, and my Uncle Dave. Uncle Bobby unfortunately passed early. Uncle Spike was, and he still is, cool Uncle Spike. He was just a few years older, but he was cool Uncle Spike. My Uncle Skeeter, he just did what he had to do. When it came to a dad, I had Uncle Dave. In a young girl's life, and as she gets older, a man's presence is very important. It's extremely important. A lot of people say that women are strong, and we are. And a lot of people say that behind every good man is a strong woman. But that woman also needs that man. As a little girl, she needs him to nurture her. And as she gets older, she still needs him. I remember when Uncle Dave used to pull up in his Nova. And I used to run, Uncle Dave, Uncle Dave. I was so happy to see Uncle Dave. And then I became a teenager. And I was kind of sassy. Uncle Dave, it changed. And as I became a woman, Uncle Dave, Uncle Dave. And now I stand here and say, Uncle Dave. My point is, it's very important that you're able to have someone there, and Uncle Dave was there. The time that I lost, that's through my own actions. But every time when I came back, Uncle Dave just always gave me that big Uncle Dave smile and said, hey, Cinnamon, even when I didn't want to be called Buddha anymore. He said, hey, Cinnamon, and he would stop and talk and we would hug. I didn't know Uncle Dave was sick because Uncle Dave is always a pillar of strength to me. And as I stand here before you, to me, I still think Uncle Dave coming up to Nova, walking down the block, and just always being a pillar of strength. And I want all of you to know that everything that he has done may not have been perfect, but he was devoted, and that's what you can ask for. Ask for devotion from each other and give him the best way that you can. Uncle Dave raised 3 boys, and he raised them to men, strong men. I appreciate all of you, and I look at you, and I see you as big children, and I see you as grown men, and I'm proud to see you all. There's no perfection. It's what he planted, and he did a great job. And Umpire, this is not to leave you out, but this is Uncle Dave right now. I just want to say, there's nothing like family. As we get older, we go off and do our own thing. And we just assume that family's gonna be there. And then it takes times like this to bring us back to realizing that how important family is. So, as I always say, I'm gonna try my best to keep in touch because that's what Uncle Dave was like. We all know Uncle Dave was singing on their river. I'm never gonna be able to walk past the river and not hear Uncle Dave singing. But I do know that he's rolling on. But he left a lot for us to hold on to. So as he rolls, we roll, and we're gonna keep rolling on. Thank you.
So I hope I did this right. And I realize I never introduced myself for those who don't know me. I'm Michelle. I'm Phyllis's youngest sister. She likes to say baby. And the last testimony comes from a friend of the family. Many of you may have heard of him, Big Daddy Kane. And he sent a note to say today we celebrate the life. I thought I'd be able to hold up. We celebrate the life and memory of an amazing, charismatic brother that I've had the honor and privilege of knowing all my life. Someone who would come on the block very quiet and calm, but still make their presence felt in the room. Someone who, as an adult, would still take the time to listen and try to understand what was going through a child's mind and give you some sound advice. Comforting advice, may I add, because he would always follow it with some sort of joke. On a personal note, I salute you for never going back telling Phyllis or my mother the wild stuff you saw me and Steve doing. You definitely had incrimination information on stuff, that's Steve, for those who don't know, and Tony, that's Big Daddy King. Thank you for showing cognizance to the youth and being more like an uncle than just an elder. My only regret is that it took me 38 years to find out how mean your two-step was on the dance floor. If anybody saw Dave, you saw him dance. I respect you, I salute you, I love you, King. And I had some words as well. Many of them were said already. I'm going to read the obituary, and if you don't mind, I will probably add some commentary throughout the obituary as well. The obituary of David Dawud Nathaniel Richardson. David Nathaniel Richardson was born to the late Evelyn Pinto Richardson and Wallace Richardson on May 23, 1950, at Cumberland Hospital in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, New York. David attended the New York City Public Schools at PS 67 and Sands Junior High School. David loved his mother so much that he ventured out of Fort Greene to make money shining shoes and delivering newspapers to help her with finances. That was said earlier when the Imam talked about loving your mother. I was like, oh my goodness, that really brings it in. She told him to use the money to buy his own clothes and school supplies, and that would help her. David's stepfather, Sonny, came into his life and nurtured David's talents. Sonny signed David up in a Little League baseball team where David became a star player and was offered a scholarship. David attended Fort Hamilton High School and eventually landed a job with Ma Bell at New York City Telephone Company as a telephone repairman and installer. As David worked in the day, he attended night school to complete his high school education and transitioned into Brooklyn College as an accounting major. And I have to tell you, David knew his accounting. David saw his childhood schoolmate, Phyllis Brown of Willoughby Street, on the outskirts of Fort Greene in 1970. Phyllis reminded David of his mother in that she was a fast walker and constantly going places while raising her 2-year-of-age baby boy, Stephen. I know my brother said 3, but he was 2. David and Phyllis eventually fell in love, and like how Sonny nurtured David, David nurtured Stephen. David and Phyllis were both completing high school at different schools while establishing their relationship. During the early 1970s, in the Black Power era, David would bring Phyllis to Black Panther rallies and Nation of Islam meetings to learn more about their Black history and why Black people were so oppressed. In 1971, Phyllis was pregnant with another son. David brought his family up to Albany State University, where David's sister Doreen attended, to participate in the Black Family Weekend and to learn more about their history. They heard Muhammad Ali speak. During that time, he was protesting fighting in the Vietnam War. If you remember, Muhammad Ali said those Vietnams did not call him the N-word. While at Black Family Weekend, David's sister Joyce happened to be in Albany at a conference with her boss, the first Black woman to run for president, Shirley Chisholm. David and Phyllis met Shirley Chisholm through her sister Joyce. All of this was during a time that Black people were not getting away from being called colored and Negro. Being Black was now a movement. David later brought Phyllis, while still pregnant, to Long Island University in Brooklyn to hear Minister Farrakhan, the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, speak. However, Brother Larry 4X spoke in his place. The couple felt this lecture was life-changing. Eventually, their son Lamar was born in June 1971. David secured an apartment in Crown Heights for his growing family, while now working at night at A&S Department Store and pursuing a degree in accounting at Brooklyn College. David joined the Nation of Islam in August 1973 and became David 92X. He brought his family in with him. Stephen 35X for 6 years, Lamar Truex was 2 years old. When they attended Muhammad University of Islam, I remember that so clearly because I used to go up on Bedford Avenue and Nostrand to pick them up. David and Phyllis 10X were married on June 12, 1974. They were very active in the Nation of Islam, helping to build a better world for Black people, beginning with themselves. And if you heard from the testimony, it was with all of us as well. After the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1975, and under Waris Dean Muhammad, David became Dawud. David was off and on in college and eventually attended Baruch College. How come I can't remember? That's my alma mater. Baruch College, where later he inspired his sister-in-law, Michelle, that's me, to attend. And I have to say, there was one night, I took a night course in accounting, and Dave and I happened to be in the same class, okay? And I just remembered, and as everyone talked about him, he gave knowledge. So if the teacher told us something about an accounting principle, Dave added the why behind it. And he was really good. I wanted him to teach the course. Okay. David encouraged Phyllis to pursue her nursing degree at LIU in 1977 with the help of his friend Joe Graham. David left A&S department store to accept a position as office clerk at the New York City Housing and Preservation Department in 1980. As David transferred to LIU to eventually get an associate's degree in accounting, he landed a position in the Housing Department's accounting department and eventually became an accountant. And I have to add, he did not need the credentials, okay? He had the credentials. Some of us are disciplined to sit in school. School is not ready for everybody, and school was not ready for David. David could have done a whole lot for a whole lot, you know, and all of the credentials. He didn't have to earn it. He lived it, he had it. David and Phyllis's third son, Rashid, was born in May 1984. David's family was growing, and David was growing on his job, becoming an auditor and a supervisor. He loved his work and took every opportunity to nurture his colleagues like a father rather than a supervisor, up until his retirement after 40 years in October 2020. All along, David brought his family traveling. He brought his family to Montreal, Canada on a shoestring budget in 1976. He wanted to visit all 50 states and accomplish many of them throughout the years. And as Toke said earlier, he may not have gone to all 50 states, but he might have gone to each state 50 times. Okay. All along, David brought his family, I said that, okay. David was referred from his sister, Doreen, to coach Little League baseball and basketball teams for the 78th precinct. And while it was for his son, Rashid, he became a father figure for those boys whose dads were not in their lives. David loved lecturing about life to young people, especially to his sons and his sons' friends, his nephews, nieces, cousins, anybody who would listen. Yep. He was an artist, and his favorite character was to draw Woody the Woodpecker. He loved to singing at family events, and his favorite song to sing in his baritone voice, you heard Cinnamon say it. Oh, that river. Thank you so much. David was a true family man, that's right, who has God, a God spirit that shows up everywhere he goes. And when you think of him, his spirit shows up. David had trials, like any of us does, but he is an excellent example for any young man who never saw a real man. David transitioned his life on Sunday, January 24th, 2021, and leaves his spirit with his wife, 47 years, Phyllis. His 3 sons and daughter-in-laws, Steve with Gina, Lamar with Janine, and Rashid with Toke. All of them are excellent families, representatives of their families and their children as well. 4 grandsons, Javian, Ashad, Jahad, and Karan. 6 granddaughters, Bria Nicole, Kadira, Mariam, Naila, Sanaa, and Amira. And as you know, he was like a grandfather, as was said by Naomi and Tavon, and also my son Marco. He has 4 sisters, Joyce, Doreen, Evelyn, and Lois, but I'm not forgetting Stacy. Stacy's another sister out there. Okay, yes, I'm not forgetting you, Stacy.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm sorry, and Marlene. Okay.
And Arlene.
Arlene, I'm sorry, Arlene. Marlene and Arlene, okay. And Gavin, I'm sorry, yes, and Gavin too. Gavin, another grandson as well. 2 brothers-in-laws, Michael and Harry. 3 sister-in-laws, Linda, Wendy, and me. And a host of nieces, starting with Dawn and Cinnamon. But we have to also remember the other Richardsons, nieces, the Dailies, okay? And I'm trying to think, the Haskins, Browns, nieces, and other nieces in the family and extended family. Monroe, I'm sorry, and Monroe, Janelle, we can't forget Janelle. Did that somebody say? O'Garros, that's the nephews, okay? And then he has his nephews, starting with Darnell and Ronald. And then also nephews are Browns, are Dailies, are Coakleys, are somebody called out? Roberts, are Perrys, are Wrights, and Richardsons, I said, and I hope I did not forget any other nephews in the family as well. And cousins, starting with Danny Trent, now Mutasia, and I'm going to forget any of the other cousins, so all of the cousins, okay?
Philadelphia.
Okay, in Philadelphia, that's right. Okay, his 4 green brothers and sisters, starting with Ron Britt, and you heard some of the names already, Ron Gardner, Joe Graham, and the others, and I know there were Flournoys, and there were Clemens, and some other family members as well. His housing department colleagues, starting with Julian Cabildo, and his Muslim community, I should say Nation of Islam community, to say that properly, with a strong representative from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and a host of relatives and friends. May Allah, God, forever be pleased with our beloved David, and I'm sure we all are, and we thank David for his time with us, his presence. And while 70 is such a short time, we're blessed to really have those 70 years with him and to learn from him. I will tell you, I learned a great deal, and he inspired me. I'll tell you, I don't know if I would have gone to college if it wasn't for him. Okay, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to tell him that. And also how positive he was, that for those who listen to gospel music, the song that always reminds me of him is by Marvin Sapp, He Saw the Best in Me. Because he sees the best in you when everybody else sees the worst. He's always positive, always uplifting, and he makes his own judgments about people and don't follow others' judgments as well. And it's always in a positive tone. So I'm praying that we all live that, we all take that with us, and we all move ahead. Thank you so much. And the next person that's coming up to speak, I'm sorry for taking so much time, okay, is, Minister Henry Muhammad, who is Student Minister Henry Muhammad, the Brooklyn representative of the Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Beginning all things in the name of Allah, the blessed and most merciful God. I bear witness to the one God is properly Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the servant and messenger. We are thankful to Allah for all that He has given us in the alternation of the night and the day, in the flowers that we see, the air that we breathe, the trees that give us oxygen to fight off the poisons in the atmosphere, for everything above and below. By Allah's permission. On behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Mother Khadija Farrakhan, my family, the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam, the East Coast, laborers of the Nation of Islam, over here in New York City, and the laborers and believers of New York City. We send our condolences to our family, our Richardson family, our Richardson Muhammad family, and our deepest condolences because we are an extension of that family as well. You know, brothers and sisters, we are constantly reminded that in life there is death. There's no way of us avoiding it. We can't get away from it. As a matter of fact, the only way that you can avoid death is to never have been born. And since you nor I have the ability to stop our birth, then we have to accept the fact that as we are alive, one day we're going to cross that path where we will meet death. It's no wonder that it's called the evil accident of time, because there's no way to be able to smile at death. But how we live our life is very important. And I thank Allah because to be here with you and hear the testimonies that we heard, we know we are celebrating the life of a brother, our brother, Dawud, Richardson, who really lived every meaning of the word David, which means beloved. A beloved man, a beloved brother, who showed each and every one of us the love of God. And so, as we speak about our brother, we have to understand, when we look at this moment, it is a celebration of life, but we also must understand we have to respect that. Because one day we're all going to cross that path. And it's not something that we have to say, well, I don't ever want to die, I want to live forever. I'm going to make sure I eat right, I'm going to make sure I do this, I do. You can do all that. You can go and move to Tibet and put yourself in a cave and eat vegetables all day and read the Bible, Quran, and quote poetry. Death is going to visit you. So it's not something to the point where we have to be scared of or have some kind of frown about it. It is an evil accident of time, but we were all going to die. And as we live, we express our Creator, if we know the Creator. And that's most important, that we come into a better relationship with the author of our life, a better relationship with Allah. If you know him as Jesus Christ, a better relationship with Jesus Christ. But the idea is we come to a better relationship with the Creator. So, from Allah we came, to Allah we return. It's Allah that gave us life. It's Allah that takes the breath of life away. You notice that when babies are born, they inhale the breath of life. And when everyone passes, they exhale that same breath. So now, like Muhammad said to us, that your breath is your soul. And when I first read that, I said, how is that? But if you know the brothers, every breath we take is our life. It's the essence of ourselves. And in that essence, we come to find that we have to be careful on how we use that breath of life. From the time that I met our brother Dawud, I love him, Dawud. I didn't know him as far as having an interpersonal relationship. My interpersonal relationship with Dawud was through his family. But what I found each and every time that I was in his presence or he was in my presence, and it was, mostly at functions, like our brother, Bobby Keith, my big brother, used to affectionately call Brother Dawud the special event Muslim. and it was, because he would come at the big events, but it wasn't like he was missed. And I'm going to get to that. It wasn't like he was missed. He was there all the time, even though he wasn't physically there. But my first meeting of him and being in his presence, it was so serene. He didn't say much, but he left a certain atmosphere. He carried a certain atmosphere. And the humility was there. And so when I was hearing the family speak, I knew I got it right. I sat down this morning as I was saying, well, I'm going to eulogize, we do it differently in a Muslim funeral service, our janaza service, but when Sister Phyllis asked me about eulogizing, I said, well, you know, I'm going to write something from the heart of what I know of my brother and the family and what the Lord puts on my heart. And so to see that humility and get that serene presence from our brother, it also made me understand what we were seeing on the other side of that, through the work and the service of our Sister Phyllis. Through the work and the service in my relationship with Brother Lamar and Brother Steve. And Brother Rashid, him and I didn't know each other interpersonally, but when I first seen him, I was like, who is this? And this is this my son, like, what? And you know, a beautiful brother. But I'm talking about three brothers that are a reflection of their father and a reflection of their mother. And from me knowing them and knowing Sister Phyllis, I was able to get a better understanding of her husband. You know, brothers and sisters, when you think about it, we are taught that Prophet Muhammad said, peace and blessings be upon him. Marriage is one half of our faith. So faith, you know, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things yet unseen, is identified as being, you know, confidence and trust in a person or a thing. But when you act out your faith, as a Muslim, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death is all for Allah. We fast for Allah. We pray for Allah. We pay charity for Allah. We are mindful of what we say out of our mouths and how we treat others for Allah. We want to be able to have a good report card with Allah. But the Bible says, how can you say that you love God when you never see him and meet your brother and sister when you see every day? I'm talking about the love of a man. When you want to get to know a man, you don't know him by the way he looks on the outside or what he says and does, because that can be a front. Go check his wife. Come on. That man linked his wife to the nation of Islam. And if anybody knows Sister Phyllis, I mean, I heard her spirit in your sister. When your brother came up, Spike, with Mike, you know, when he came up and spoke and said and identified himself, as soon as he smiled, I saw your face. As soon as your sister smiled and got to the point, well, I'm going to say some things that's not on here, I saw Sister Phyllis. You know? But to hear and know, as you have taught us and told us time and time again, Sister Phyllis, in terms of dealing with, you know, the beginning of your relationship with your beautiful husband and how you came into the nation of Islam, and for you to still be here, you would not be able to be here and give us that spirit and that beautiful smile and that motherly wit if you didn't have a man at home that was backing every doggone bit of that. And so that's a testimony to this man. Brother, my conversations with Brother Lamar, man, it's just, I mean, the beauty of that brother, the humility in my brother, the balance in my brother, and then he'll throw the same compliment at me, but I'm looking at him, I'm like, this is one calm brother. I know there's another side to this brother. And every time I would see Brother Steve come through, I'd be like, man, you know, I want to just hug brother because I don't get to see him that much, but I know what I'm looking at and what I'm hearing. And as I heard from everyone, I'm glad I was blessed to sit here and listen to you all speak. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that, you know, as the earth moves at a certain rate of speed by the power of the sun, which is all by the power of the creator. It travels on an axis, but the rotation of the earth, everything is going around the equator. So as human beings, we move around the equator. You have the North and the South Pole, and it's freezing in the North, and it's freezing in the South Pole, and it's cold outside, right? You feel some of that North Pole and South Pole. But you know, in the alternation of the night and the day, there are signs for those of us who believe that Allah says in the Quran. And the signs that we see is all of us travel the earth around the equator as living beings. But when this breath leaves this body, the north is frozen and the south is frozen. And we no longer travel around the equator. So as our brother can no longer travel around the equator physically, he travels through us. And that's something that we carry with us. And that's something we'll always be with us. Because we heard our brother Abdul Malik over in prayer. You know, our service is normally a prayer because You know, as Allah said in the Quran, and I'm paraphrasing, but it says, you know, those of you who are Christians, those of you who are Muslims, those of you who are Jews, those of you who are Sudanese, and so forth, whatever your religion is, those who believe in Allah and the last day, there is no fear for you, nor shall you fear. And I used to have to look into that. What does that mean? And of course, we all understand God by degrees. Some know better than others. But, you know, Allah gives you certain things in your own spirit instinctively. And my understanding on it is this. When you have a knowledge of God and a knowledge of yourself, then you come into a knowledge of the enemy of God as well. And you start practicing a certain way where you're no longer being victimized by worldly things. As Brother mentioned something, Brother Michael, about technology before we got into this whole technology thing, we went around with jackets and having the spikes on it, and how his name went viral without internet, without social media. It's all right to deal with technology, but you don't let it consume you. It's all right to deal with media, but you don't let media consume you. It's all right to have the finer things in life, but you don't let the finer things in life consume you, the material want and so forth. And when you find yourself that you want to be more identifiable and appreciated by the Lord of the world, more identified and appreciated by the intent of your heart and your motivation to want to please God and those who stand in righteousness, then when things of the world happen, you don't look at it the way the world looks. Death is not something that we frown upon. Death is not something that we find ourselves grieving about to the point where we start cursing God because we don't understand why this one. Well, why not? All of us have to cross that line sooner or later. So yes, we will have sorrow, but we're not going to grieve. Yes, we naturally have fear about things, but we're not fearful when you understand there's no fear for the righteous. If the righteous are constantly feeding themselves knowledge, as I heard all of you say that every time you came around Brother Dawud, he always fed you knowledge. He always, no matter what they was teaching in the class, he could teach it better because he had a certain things in his heart where he already accepted God and submitted in his own way to God and stood to be himself and not try to be nobody else but himself. And this is what Allah has taught us through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. We thank God for coming to us and intervening in our affairs in the person of Master Father Muhammad. He said 6 words summed up his teachings in his word. Accept your own and be yourself. Yourself, myself, the nature of us is to submit to God. Allah says in the Holy Quran, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, set your face for religion. The nature created for you by Allah. And there's no altering that. So and I'm saying that to say that we could not have even come into birth through our mothers and our fathers if there wasn't submission in the biological workings that brought us into existence. By nature. By the nature of ourselves. A Muslim don't want to submit his will or her will to be the will of God. You can put Christian on that label, you can put Hebrew on that, you can put whatever label you want on it, but God knows who you really are. And my brother, Dawud, he showed that in his everyday life. Whether he prayed 5 times a day or not, didn't mean that he wasn't still bound to Allah. Whether he came to the mosque all the time or not, didn't mean he wasn't still bound to Allah. Because the mosque is just a building. The true house of God is here. This is the most magnificent creation of Allah, his human body. So how we treat this temple is very important. I'll close with this. Then in the 89th surah of the Holy Quran, it's called the Daybreak. And toward the end of this surah, Allah says this. In the name of Allah, the Merciful. He says, O soul that art at rest, return to thy Lord, well pleasing. So enter among my servants and enter my house. We're talking about paradise. We're talking about that heavenly state. We don't know what it's like on the other side after we take our last breath. But that kind of life can be lived right now, where your soul is at rest. Meaning that inwardly you're at peace with yourself and you're at peace with God. And what I understand from studying on this is that there are 3 stages of development for all of us. Animal, human, and divine. And sometimes some of us never get past the animalistic stage. Even though we pass the age of 18 and pass the age of 21, and we're so-called grown men and women, but we still live in a bestial lifestyle because of our pain. But then there are some of us that when we start coming into our own and we start striving to be more right and exact based off of what we were taught from our parents and the way we were brought up, and we're no longer shunning that to the side. We're starting to remember our etiquette and our morals. Now our animal stage of existence is becoming more human. We're more respectable. We're more courteous. We strive more to speak kind words. We make our mistakes, we make our errors, but if we're praying or meditating on God and being reflective and analyzing our goings and comings throughout the day at the end of the night, and then trying to do it better the next day, now we're coming more into a divine state because we're not praying because we have to pray, we're praying because we want to pray. We're not being kind because it's nice to be kind, we're being kind for the sake of kindness. We're not loving because it's going to get us some benefit, we're loving for the sake of good. It's unconditional. That's what I heard Sister Cinnamon speak about. That's what I heard Kay speak about. That's what I heard my brother speak about. The unconditional love that Allah showed through this vessel of his, known as Brother Dawud, Richardson, Muhammad, Brother David, 92. So for us to be able to have peace and contentment of mind, have Islam in our lives on a daily basis, we have to deal with ourselves. Nobody else, just deal with yourself. And we should be striving to live the life that God wants for us. And that's what you got every time you came into the Richardson Muhammad household. You got God's love. You had got God's way. And there's no way in the world that anybody can tell me anything different because I know Sister Phyllis. And I know how she lives, and I know the household was run that way. And they'll say behind every man is a good woman. We say beside every man is a good woman. And because the woman, if she's not risen up, the whole nation goes. You know, said a nation can rise no higher than a woman. Brother David showed he kept his woman up. Because she is the mother of the and that's the relation dealing with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, and refinement. The culture is very important. The refinement is very important. And I'm thankful to Allah that Allah has blessed us to be able to see himself in a vessel that was among us. And our brother, brothers and sisters, as we get ready to close, before we do our closing prayer, there is a custom that we have in the nation of Islam where we pass our customs and our janaza services and our funeral services. And I just want and the sisters come forward with the custom to be able to pass them out. And it's not by chance that someone mentioned, I don't remember who it was, that, yes, my brother in the back. He said that when our uncle would teach them, he would give you $10 or give you a cup. I want, can we take the time to pass the peppermints around? Please let me get one as well. And then I'm going to, before we open these peppermints, I want to explain exactly what they, thank you, symbolize to us in the nation of Islam from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This peppermint, and hopefully everyone will take one, and you know, as some, you might want to take two. I know you breathe into that mask, mouth getting dry and everything. I don't know, I'm not trying to put nobody. This is a celebration of life, is that right? Yes, indeed. This peppermint, you know, the body of it, you know, it's hard, but it symbolizes, in this instance, the body of a human being, in a sense. Because when you and I look at it, and as we get ready to open up, and we want to make sure after everyone else gets their peppermint, then we'll open the peppermint up. But the peppermint itself is just a symbol. And in this instance, we're talking about a symbol of one who was among us. And when you open the peppermint up and you put it in your mouth, you're going to get the sweetness of the candy, of the peppermint. And as you deal with the juices of your mouth and your saliva, and it starts wearing the peppermint down, so do our bodies wear down after a period of time of being in this environment that Allah has created. But the sweetness of the juices is going in. And then eventually the peppermint disappears, just as one day you and I will disappear. But the lasting of that sweetness is what we walk away with. What we heard from all the testimonies is the sweetness of Brother Dawud Richardson. And when you put this peppermint in your mouth, and after we finish this and we close out with prayer, and you get your last chance to be able to view our brother's remains, remember the sweetness of our brother Dawud, 92 Richardson. Hopefully everyone gets a peppermint, and as you put your peppermint in your mouth, our brother will be coming up to close us out in prayer. I want to thank you once again. I love you all, family, but Sister Phyllis, Brother Stephen, Brother Lamar, my brother Rashid, your family, your wives, your children that are here, all the families that I just met today. On behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Mother Khadija Farrakhan, the Farrakhan family, the laborers and believers that are here from Markham and 7 and 7C, we're here, we're your extended family, brothers and sisters. And whether we was going to say anything or not, just to be in the room of you all, to us is a service for the whole family. Did everyone get a peppermint yet? Yes. All right, please, you can open your peppermint, you can start putting your peppermint in your mouth. I want to thank you once again, and thank the family as I greet you in peace. Our brother Yasin Muhammad will be coming up and preparing for the close us out in prayer. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Okay, we're going to perform the closing prayer, and we'll do it in Arabic first, and then we'll translate it. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of all the world. The Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of this day of Republic. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favor, and not the path of those upon whom wrath is brought down. nor go before spring. O Allah, we ask thee to continue to bless and exalt the believers. Continue to bless and exalt the family of brothers David Brown. We ask thee, O Allah, to continue to guide and protect each and every one that is present here today to honor and celebrate the life of Brother David Brown. We ask thee, O Allah, to continue to exalt the message, exalt the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and exalt the nation of Islam. Amen.
At this time, brothers and sisters, we want to, on behalf of the family, give everyone a chance to do a final grooming. And, because this is actually going to be service, and we will be having a burial, inshallah, tomorrow morning. So, after the final group, yes, I will have, thank you. We have our people, staff here, and the people who come on up. Please give us thank you. Thank you.
Peace be with you. Because we are in a different kind of world right now, to give you little instructions about the healing. If you are not in the same household, we ask that you come one at a time. If you will live together, you may come up together. The other thing is that I'm sure after we finish the viewing, there's going to be a closing of the casket, understand? So return to your seats and until the final. Are you going to close that? Or we not? Okay. So we're just going to do the viewing. Come up. My staff will direct you from the rear. At this point, also, I want to thank you on behalf of David's family. Those in the streaming community, those who have called and said prayers, they thank you. And they'll thank you more for the fashion. So we're going to start from the rear. If you choose to leave, we ask that you leave from the rear door. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, the nation, for your kindness and for your continued support of this family.
Where's our little DJ? We're gonna put on some more music. Is he upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, my God, what an awesome wonder. Consider all the world thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power, the universe dress display. Then sing my song, my Savior God to me. How great thou art. I love you, Jesus. How great thou art. And sing my song, my Savior God. Just go. Sing, sing, and sing. How great thou art. How great thou art. Let me say one more thing. And when I think that God sent Son, sent him to die, I scarce can take it in that on that cross, my blood and bled, he bled and died, take away all my sins. Every time I realize that, and sing, yes, lift your eyes, how great thou art. And sing, how great thou art. How great thou precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, lead me.
I missed it for the world. I was, oh yeah. I was upstairs. Oh, okay. I'm here back to work. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Supposed to fill this out with the business for the world. I said, wait, I'm trying to figure out. What are you mean? What's it?
Let me see, because they were very limited.
Okay.
Mario can give you a copy of the whole thing. Oh, no, I'm just saying, yes, but I'm just saying, if you want a copy, you can give you a copy.
Sister Melody.
You always go safely on the train.
Yeah.
You found your phone, Miles?
Bossy.
There is one thing I want to remind you of. Gentlemen. Hello. Tomorrow morning, take Grant Davis to practice. If you intend to go with us,
Everybody's good though?
be here by 10 o'clock. If you're not here by 10.
That's what he's about to do. Just pull it from the line.
It is. That's what I'm doing right now.
So shouldn't lag if he's pulling from the line.
I have multiple ideas.
So he's learned this off the internet. He learned it off the internet.
Yeah, well, there's people watching it now.
I saw 100 people outside. It's what? No, I told him.
And it's not blue. I said, and it's not blue.
Oh, we doing it tomorrow?
I'll buy them.
Would you like to say anything to the people watching?
I'm lost for words right now. What happened? What did you want?
Yes, I want to thank everyone who texted me, called me, sent cards, sent love, prayed for us, was there for me at a time that I really needed you. I want to thank everyone who participated and helped me to get through this. I love you all, and I thank Allah for all of you. I really thank Allah for all of you who are in my life and in this new world that we're bringing in. Because this was so peaceful for me, and I'm not grieving in a way that I'm sad. I'm not sad. My husband is always going to be there, and I thank you all. I just thank you all for reaching out and loving me and loving him. I thank you all for this, and I'm lost for words. I'm